Good evening and welcome back to another edition of By Any Greens Necessary. I'm your host, Melvin Thompson, the Executive Director of the Endeleo Institute. You should know by now that Endeleo is the nonprofit arm of Trinity United Church of Christ, and we focus in three areas: health, education, and community development. So welcome back. Hope you got a chance to enjoy this over the weekend. Hope you were at the farmers market. A lot of folks told us you were there. We had another robust market as usual, and I've been told that starting next Saturday, we have added yet one more black farmer from Pembroke, Illinois, so that will make a total of 9. So please jot this down: July 8th through September 30th, every Saturday morning at the corner of 95th and Normal from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. You will encounter not 8, but now 9 African-American farmers that come from Pembroke, Illinois, selling this delicious food that comes from their respective farms in Pembroke, just about 60 miles from the city. So welcome back. I actually have... we had a dual thing going on last Saturday. We had the pleasure of hosting. We mentioned last week about our home ownership workshop. It was our very first, and we had a very respectable crowd. We had almost 30 people there, and my guest today was actually one of those people. And what did you think of it? And you don't have to say anything nice just because I'm asking you, but what did you think about it? About the educational workshop?
I think it was super informative. I'm definitely glad I went. It was a Saturday, so it's hard to wake up early and go to those things.
Absolutely.
But the information was invaluable, especially if you've never gone through the home buying process. The questions were candid, the answers were real. It was very worthwhile.
Well, thank you so much. And that was the only excuse that you could ever have for not being at the farmers market. And I've already talked to my guest, and I'm about to introduce her now. But we started talking after the home ownership workshop, and we found out that there were some commonalities, and she wanted to know more about the farmers market because she's a registered dietitian. So let me, without further ado, introduce you to Ms. Jennifer Qualls. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It was just wonderful. We were talking after the workshop, and you started asking me, and I said, well, wait a minute. It's kind of the format here. I do kind of like last minute guests. I want to call it the last minute show because that's how this thing kind of comes together. But you had such an interesting background that I wanted to feature you, and the fact that you're African American. We don't see a lot of dietitians in our community, and I think that's culturally relevant. So, and I always ask folks that come on the show because people are always watching, and this is a call-in show. Oh, we've got a caller right now. Right. Go right ahead with your question or comment.
I'm right on time. Great show as always.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I have to ask a very serious question.
Okay.
Why is it that when African Americans need help, they call on their Hispanic brothers? Always. And the Hispanic brothers help. Why can't maybe one or two stands be of Hispanic heritage at 95th Normal?
Mm-hmm. And that's a great question, and thank you for that, because let me tell you, we do have Hispanic vendors. We have Hispanic young people working for us, so we are by no means exclusive. We're inclusive. So if you stop by the market this Saturday, you'll see that for yourself.
Work for you. Why don't you give them a chance and get their own stand? Anybody could work.
Absolutely. I mean, your comments are valid, but for us, the focus is on African Americans. We're in a predominantly African American community, and that's where the focus is.
That's prejudice, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
That's prejudice, isn't it?
Nope, not at all.
All you want is African Americans, and you don't want Hispanics.
Nope, that is not what we said, and you must not have heard what I said. So look up the word in the dictionary, and you'll see. And that's all I can say on to that, because I don't want to lose valuable time and block other callers. So thank you for the call and the comment, though. So where were we? We were talking about the home ownership and the relationship. So I always ask our guests the career path, because typically it isn't a straight and narrow. I'm sure there wasn't, but just tell us how all of this came to be. Was this something that you aspired to from the very beginning?
Well, in hindsight, I would say that, I was destined to be a dietitian. When I was 7 years old, I was reading nutrition labels on cereal boxes, and I was, but I didn't know what a dietitian was until I was about 20 years old.
Wow.
And I think that says a lot about the lack of nutrition education and health education presence in our communities. I originally went to college to be a doctor. I was pre-med. And I would always bring very healthy lunches to our study groups and share them. Like, we need energy. We have to eat good food.
Right.
So one of my friends said to me one day, "Oh, you should be a dietitian. You're so concerned with nutrition and you always bring these healthy lunches in."
Right.
And I was like, what is that?
Wow.
So we hopped on Google, and I fell in love. I think it's definitely what I was meant to do. And
Sure.
I found out what path I needed to take to become a dietitian, and I ended up having to transfer schools, but I made it happen.
Yeah, and are there special, you had the aspiration to become a doctor, to become a dietitian. Is there a special coursework other than, or is it similar to the path to becoming an MD?
Thankfully, it was quite similar in that the first year and a half of college wasn't wasted. I was able to transfer those science credits over.
Oh man, that's excellent. I know that story. Yes.
But I needed to get a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition. So like I said, those science credits really helped.
Yep.
And then once I graduated with that, more specifically, a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition with a focus on dietetics. So if you're interested in becoming a dietitian, look for an undergrad program that specifies that it's a didactic program in dietetics, and that will align you for the graduate school that you need to go to. And you'll have to do some graduate work and a dietetic internship at some university or maybe even a hospital. And then after that, you're able to sit for the RD exam. Wow.
So there is a track
Yes.
that leads you to where you should be, and there should be schools. And were you here in Illinois?
Yes, I was here in Illinois.
Okay. Excellent. So tell me, you're working now in a field that I don't know if folks would equate or correlate with being a nutritionist, and I only Googled to find out where that was. So tell us where you work now.
Yeah, right now I work in a dialysis center or several dialysis units. And I know you don't think of nutritionist or dietitian and then think of dialysis.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, because the dialysis actually is kind of like the failure of a kidney operating. So what's the connection there?
Nutrition is always important, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a dietitian.
Sure.
But nutrition becomes critically important when your kidneys no longer work. Your kidneys aren't able to remove the waste and excess fluid from your body. And, the things that we eat that were once good for us, like a lot of potassium, bananas or oranges, a lot of phosphorus, nuts, suddenly become not so good for us because our kidneys can no longer filter out the excess minerals from those foods.
Wow. So it becomes really critical to have a nutritious lifestyle. I don't use the word diet as much, but a lifestyle once your kidneys have done that. So are there preventable things or foods that are recommended in the event? Just to live healthy and not have your kidneys fail?
Absolutely. The two leading causes of renal failure or kidney failure are diabetes and high blood pressure.
I read that.
Yes. So if you're diabetic or if you have hypertension or high blood pressure, it's really important to keep those blood sugar levels within, normal levels, within normal range.
Sure.
If you have high blood pressure, manage that high blood pressure, eat a low sodium diet. If you have diabetes, get the nutrition educator or
Sure.
the nutrition education, because those two conditions have a plethora of comorbidities that come with it, and renal disease is unfortunately one of them.
And the comorbidities are multiple diseases. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. What's interesting about you being there is, and then we talked about it in the green room, is the fact that I'm starting to see, and I thought it was just my imagination, but I'm seeing these dialysis centers popping up just about everywhere in our community. And you were saying that isn't by happenstance.
It's not. It is out of necessity. Unfortunately, African Americans are affected by kidney disease more than any other race. And, it is because we have high rates of diabetes
Yes.
and very high rates of high blood pressure. And, those two are just like the funnel that leads into, unfortunately, dialysis.
And are there percentages of or likelihoods of kidney failure that you know offhand if you are experiencing diabetes or high blood pressure?
Offhand, I don't want to misspeak and give you a percentage. However, I will say that if your diabetes is not under control, or if you have diabetes and don't even know it,
Sure.
it's just wreaking havoc on your body. So the incidence that you will have renal failure is much higher if your diabetes isn't under control, which means you aren't regularly going to your primary care physician, you aren't getting those referrals for the specialists who can help you, you aren't checking your blood sugar daily. And same goes for hypertension.
And someone with a kidney that may be failing, are there any signs of that that they should know about? And because why would a person go and do that kind of test if it unbeknownst to them that their kidneys are actually going through that?
Exactly. And I guess kind of the scary thing about kidney failure is that you don't really have symptoms until it's almost too late. Your kidneys can be declining, and you just feel the same. And then you'll have the symptoms of kidney failure, which could be, swelling, vomiting. There's, I'm not a physician, I'm a dietitian. I'll stay in my lane.
Yeah.
But you should, if you know that you are at risk or you're an at-risk population, which, both of us, being African American, are at risk, ask your doctor for those blood tests and urine tests that could check on your kidney function.
Because if you were to ask, and that's another great point to make, that we don't ask those kind of things when we're going for our physicals or our checkups. We just assume, and if we say, doctor, I want to see, I want to check on my blood levels or through my kidneys, is that something that they just do and say, okay, we'll do that? Any specific reason why, or the fact that you're the patient, you can request that?
Oh yes, you are the patient, you are in control, and if you have a request for a test, it shouldn't be a major concern. The biggest thing that's in the way, I would think, would maybe be insurance coverage.
Yeah.
If your insurance doesn't cover a certain test.
Or the lack of education, just
yeah.
the lack of even knowing to ask that question. Yeah. And, the healthcare is, I talk about it all the time on the show about just the exorbitant costs. And, we have folks that are, that bypass that because they either don't have the insurance or have to, be subject to going to emergency rooms. So the last thing that they're going to do is get just a regular checkup for something that isn't bothering them. And so that probably explains, I think, is it 1 out of 3 African Americans that suffer from this kidney failure?
Mm-hmm. 1 out of 3 with diabetes, and I believe the statistics once you have diabetes is a little higher, but that's how many of us have diabetes.
This is a live call-in show. We're ready to take your calls or comments at 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060. 1060. This is By Any Greens Necessary. Take us through a typical day of a nutritionist. I know we have, as part of our grant from the USDA, when the farmers market is not in operation during the summer, that in between we're providing nutrition education, and I'm going to be talking to you after the show about that, because this is a critical area that we need to make sure that our people, their awareness is heightened, and that they know that this is going on. So kind of walk me through what a typical day for you might be.
Yeah, sure. So as I said before, I'm a renal dietitian, so I'm a dietitian that specializes in renal failure and ESRD. So my day is different from another type of nutritionist or dietitian. There are oncology dietitians that work with cancer patients. You have the generalists who work in the hospital. They see a bunch of different types of patients. Sports dietitians that work with sports teams, and then you have weight loss dietitians. So for me, I work for dialysis patients. So I'd start my day by typically running their lab results. I'll print them off, and then I'll hand out each person's lab results and explain to them, go through it with them, what each result means, and then how they could eat differently, or encourage them to continue their good work, to keep those levels within normal limits.
Wow. And how often do patients have to see you? Is it every day, every other day, once a week?
It varies. So we draw our labs at least once a month for the dietitian.
Okay.
And then if there's any repeats that need to be done, I'll review the labs twice a month. But then I like to see them, in between the lab draws, just for education, to make sure that I'm teaching them everything they need to know about their condition, about how to eat, if this is very new for them, how to prepare food. They're on a lot of new medications. I'll go over the good timing for that. So I think that I spend a lot more time with them than their doctor can. So I like to go into the details as much as I can and answer as many questions as I can, and then refer anything out of my realm back to their nephrologist, which is a kidney doctor.
Okay. So is the possibility of improvement to the point where a person may not have to return to dialysis for the rest of their lives, or is this something that they're pretty much married to, pretty much?
I mean, there's always the case of the person that regained kidney function, and it's a rare case, but
really,
it's not the norm. Typically, once you're on dialysis, you are on it until you can get a kidney transplant, and if it's not your goal to get a transplant, then it's what sustains you. It's a survival therapy.
Wow. Very interesting. We never want to get there, but it appears that the lack of healthy food in our communities, healthy fruits and vegetables, the lack of that consumption sounds like a really bad recipe, or a recipe for this kind of thing. And it doesn't surprise me to hear that the more healthy foods like bananas and nuts and all those things that you eat, it tends to mitigate the possibility of having kidney failure. Yet in our communities we don't see that, and even if we just built grocery stores in every area, would folks frequent them and consume? And so there's a ton of education that we're going to have to start. I was at a retreat earlier today, and folks were talking about the soda and beverage tax and how that comes into play. And if folks knew about what you're doing and that issue, then I think no matter what side of the issue you're on with the tax, sugar is detrimental, and it can lead to coming to see you. Yeah. Wow. We've got a caller. Go ahead, caller, with your comment or question.
Hi there. My question is for your guest. I wanted to ask, these days it seems like the quote-unquote healthy food it's kind of more expensive. Like when people are trying to shop organic and things like that at the store, it's oftentimes more expensive. So I'd like to ask the guest there if she has any recommendations for people who are on a budget with a family, what kind of things you can do to still be able to give your family a healthy, balanced diet.
Absolutely. First of all, I think it's great that you want to provide a healthy diet for your family, and it is hard if you're going organic. Organic can be very expensive. There is a list called the Dirty Dozen, so that you avoid buying everything organic. You can just buy a few things organic and go conventional with everything else. That saves a few bucks. Buying what's in season, so avoiding buying apples in the summer or cherries in the winter. Buying those seasonal fruits and vegetables always lowers the price of them. Frozen fruits and vegetables are very good. They are frozen right after they're picked, so they retain a lot of their vitamins and minerals. And they're much cheaper than buying fresh, and you don't risk losing them if they stay in the refrigerator too long.
Thank you so much for the call. And the other alternative is to come to the farmers market on 95th and Normal. So yeah, keep that in mind as well. And thank you so much for the call. She brought up a really good point about taking care of the family and making sure. And that's actually where I was going with the question I was going to pose to you. And I think we talked a little bit about it in the green room about young people and. We're seeing young people, younger and younger, experiencing obesity and drinking all these sugary drinks and just not eating a healthy lifestyle. So I know your conversation isn't the same with a young person, and I don't know if how much are you exposed to them, and what's the methodology that you use to convey the importance of eating healthy.
Absolutely. I used to lead a nutrition club for elementary school students, and I also used to work with very young kids with teaching them nutrition and how to eat healthy. And I find that the best way to teach a kid what is a healthy diet is to let them be involved, which means that the parent would kind of have to lead by example. That means letting them help you prepare healthy meals at home, letting them help you pick out produce from the grocery stores. All of those things, especially when they're very young, they just really like to be hands-on. So as much of a game as you can make it, or experiential, that's the best way for them to learn at that point. I would avoid,
less of the rhetoric
and getting too scientific with the children, but definitely emphasizing like this is good for you instead of don't eat that, that's bad for you.
Right.
It's the best way, I think, to.
Right.
Kids into
and then you said earlier about you don't want to say you're gonna be fat or those kind of negative.
Them a complex.
Yeah, the complex that early. Yeah, that's amazing. And so we're gonna have to talk further because this is critical to one of the things we did when we applied for this grant was again we wanted to change in our community the culture. We wanted to create a culture of health. And not just for 3 months, but to start, letting folks know, add this to what you eat instead of don't eat this instead of that. Just add this.
Speak abundance.
Yeah, speak abundance. Absolutely. Increase your your variety. Bring fruits and vegetables. And one of the challenges that we have is that we have a lot of corner stores in our community, and fortunately, we're starting to talk to a couple of them that are receptive to carrying more healthy fruits and vegetables. In fact, when the market is done at the end of the day, we take some of those fruits and vegetables to them, just for free.
Oh.
And just for, here, try this, try that, and we'll see where it goes. So it's been a pleasure. It's always, whenever a good conversation goes, it's very short. And so I appreciate you. I'm going to have you back, and we're definitely going to be talking about nutrition education for the rest of the year at least. We've got about 5 more market days at Trinity's Farmers Market at 95th and Normal. So please stop by. We've got at least, I think, 14 vendors that are selling everything from how to grow plants, innovative new ways. I mean, it's just a wonderful village atmosphere. So thank you again. Tune in next week at this very same time for By Any Greens Necessary, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Take care.